Hello, I'm Voltaire Tupas. Welcome to Rappler Talk. On September 1, 13-year-old Lumad Shin Campos saw her father shot in the head. According to the group Katribo, at least 53 Lumad had been killed extrajudicially under the Aquino administration, and the killings have intensified in 2015. Is the Aquino administration doing enough to end impunity in Mindanao? How should the government address the plight of indigenous peoples? How can the public and civil society help the Lumad? Joining us today is Vicky Tauli Kurpus, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, to discuss the issue further. Good morning, Ma'am Vicky.
Good morning, Voltaire.
First of all, congratulations on the recognition which the Senate gave you yesterday. I understand you met with senators and you also discussed the plight of indigenous peoples. What did you discuss, and how are they trying to address the problem in Mindanao, particularly in the areas where Lumads are?
Well, it was basically to really give me the resolution that recognizes and congratulates me for my appointment as a UN Special Rapporteur. And then on the side, we had a discussion with the daughter of one of the people killed in Lianga, Surigao. No, so the discussion was more with Senator Lauren Legarda, who was listening to what the daughter of Jonel Campos was telling her, as well as the cousin, and I also had a chance to talk with them.
You mean Shin, yung 13-year-old
Yes,
na anak ni Campos? How is she? Nakausap namin siya a few days ago. Apparently she's traumatized.
She
during the meeting, what
definitely
did she
looks
say?
traumatized because she witnessed the killing of her father. No, the father was shot in front of many people, including her. So it's really a very traumatic situation.
So I believe this is one of your first tasks as special rapporteur, particularly dito sa Pilipinas, yung mga katutubo sa Mindanao. How do you plan to help address the issue based on the powers which you have as the special rapporteur?
Well, in situations like this, the thing I do is to send a communication to the government, especially after I receive complaints or the reports of what happened in those places. And I did receive a series of reports from the community themselves, as well as the support groups who are giving them support. And in my communications with governments, I would usually give a very brief summary of the information that I have received and validated, and then I write a letter asking the government what are they going to do about the various situations that are being addressed. So in this particular case, I am going to send a communication which will, of course, ask them also about how are they going to pursue the investigations of these cases, and how will they bring the perpetrators to justice, and how will they deal with the evacuation, for instance, because I was told and I've read in the reports that people are evacuating. Almost 3,000 people have evacuated already to Tandag city in Surigao del Sur.
Speaking of facts, you mentioned the number of refugees at this point. What are the hard facts that you have now based on the researches that you conducted?
Well, what I gathered is that even during the week before the killings happened, people were already starting to evacuate because they were being ordered by the military to evacuate. That's based on the report. And the people are also, after of course the killings, then a bigger number left. And from the reports that I got, it's not just people from Lianga in Jatagon, in Surigao del Sur, but also people from Marihatag. No, so there are several people who are now there at the sports center of Tandag City, and they were received by the Governor Johnny Pimentel. That's the kind of report that I received so far.
The recent spate of killings and also the evacuation of indigenous peoples from their communities have been going on since May, at least the recent ones. Can we say that it has already reached crisis level as far as the UN is concerned?
Well, yeah, definitely these are really situations of impunity, and all these killings happening, the one that happened in Pangantukan as well, in Mendis in Bukidnon. That's really impunity. I think that it's not right that armed people will just go to a community and start shooting people, and these are civilians. This is not allowed in international human rights law, and therefore it's the obligation of the state as a duty holder, duty bearer, to investigate these kinds of impunity and human rights violations, and bring the perpetrators to justice, as well as deal with the aftermath of what's happening, like the evacuations that are happening, this is a big number of people leaving their communities to go and find for a safer place, and of course also to ensure that they will be able to go back and they will be able to live a life of peace and security.
There are two major issues apparently. One, extrajudicial killings, and two, the displacement of indigenous peoples. Let's talk about extrajudicial killings first. Yesterday, the president clarified that his administration doesn't have the policy of killing Lumads. And then, how should the administration address it? Because clearly, it's just it's a clarification on as far as policy is concerned. But in terms of concrete actions that should be taken by the government, what should be undertaken at this point?
Well, first of all, I believe that there is no such policy, because what government is going to have a policy of just killing indigenous peoples? No, but I think that even even with the present situation really demands that the Philippine government, as a duty bearer of international human rights protection, respect, and fulfillment, that is their obligation under the Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. They are the ones who will give the protection, they will be the ones who will respect the rights, and they will be the ones who will ensure that these rights are fulfilled. And if there are cases like this where blatant violation of individual and collective rights of indigenous peoples are happening, then it's the burden of the government to really stop these kinds of violations, as well as to give protection to those whose rights are being violated. And I guess as a special rapporteur, that is what I would appeal to the government to do, to be able to really do the kinds of investigation that are needed, identify who are the ones who have committed these human rights violations, and bring them to justice.
Until now, the military is denying its involvement, of course, and they are also stressing that the paramilitary groups there, particularly the groups in Surigao del Sur, were the ones who are perpetrating the violations there, and they have nothing to do with it.
Well, according to the reports that I received, it's alleging that the military of the 36th Infantry Battalion people were there together with the Magahat Bagani paramilitary forces. So I can't understand why they are saying that they have nothing to do with it when they were physically present in the community. In fact, they were the ones who have occupied, at least from the reports that I received, it's alleged that they were the ones who occupied the school. So I don't know where that is coming from. And secondly, I did read about the claims that it is an internal fight. It's a tribal war between the people. It's not a tribal war. They are all Manobos. They are all coming from the same people. So I don't think that's possible. It's really a paramilitary force that has been armed. And how can you have a force armed with high-powered rifles? Where did those guns come from? Are those guns illegal? So those are the kinds of things that need to be investigated.
The military is claiming that the paramilitary group belongs to those who are against the New People's Army in the area. and then the other one are those who are also against the other paramilitary elements which are committing human rights violations in Bukidnon and in Davao. How do you deal with a situation where there's a conflict between the government and the rebels?
Well, I think that first of all, that really tells us that there's really a need to pursue peace talks, peace negotiations between the government and the New People's Army and the National Democratic Front. In the past, when the peace talks were happening, there was a joint monitoring body that's supposed to jointly, the ones belonging to the NDF and the ones belonging to the army, they should do investigations of claims of human rights violations. But now that whole peace talks has collapsed. There are no peace talks happening. So there's no mechanism wherein such kind of investigation should take place. And I would strongly recommend that that a mechanism where a joint monitoring and investigation could happen, and then the facts, so that the facts will really come out, and based on those facts, then there will be subsequent discussions on how to deal with that kind of situation. What's happening is that the people are caught in the middle. They are forced to side with which, or at least they are made to side with whichever group, and in the process, that's when all these kinds of killings are happening. So I think that's really something that needs to be addressed in a peace negotiations and subsequent setting up of mechanisms to deal with these kinds of human rights violations.
And clearly the situation has divided the communities because there are Lumad groups whose elders, the Datus, are fighting with other Datus. How is this affecting, for instance, the unity of indigenous peoples, and how should it be resolved?
I think it's really it's very regrettable that the situation ends up in that way, where indigenous peoples are divided amongst themselves, and therefore they are not able to pursue their assertion of their basic human rights, both collective and individual rights. These people are living in situations of dire poverty. Their land rights are not even recognized yet, or they don't have some of them don't even have their certificates of ancestral domain titles. There's a lot of encroachment or threats of encroachment coming into their lands in the form of mining operations or plantations or even hydroelectric dams. I think what needs to happen is that indigenous peoples themselves should really be empowered. Support should be provided for them so that they will be able to empower themselves, and they will be able to assert their rights, and whoever is violating these rights should really be should be addressed. Who should be challenged, because these people have the basic rights. They have their basic rights to stay in these ancestral domains where their ancestors have been since time immemorial. They have the right to determine what kind of development should happen into their communities. They have the right to pursue a community with peace and security, and obviously all these rights are being violated. So I think effort should be done both by the civil society organizations, human rights organizations, indigenous peoples organizations and formations, to really support them in their efforts to strengthen themselves so that they can really assert and claim their rights.
These issues have already been raised during the previous visit of your predecessor, Professor Stavenhagen. I understand you were part of that visit, not only in Cordillera but also in Mindanao. You've met one of the victims, Emerico Samarca. At that time, what was the context? What was the problem, and how is it different from now?
Well, the situation at that time, there were also these CAFGU paramilitary groups. This is the Civilian Armed Forces Geographical Units, which is the paramilitary group organized by the military, and so that was one of the big issues that Professor Stavenhagen wanted to look into. So I joined him because I was part of the NGO community who was helping support his visit. And at that time, that was in 2001 in December. At that time, Emerito Samarca was one of the hosts of that visit. They were among those who have organized the communities to be able to come to Butuan, because we had that meeting in Butuan City, to come to Butuan so that they will be able to present their issues before Professor Stavenhagen. At that time, Emerito Samarca was the director of SILDAP Sidlakan, which is also a body that's dealing with indigenous schools. So I did meet him, so I really feel so sad that he has done a lot of good things for the communities. He has really pushed for the establishment of indigenous schools, and yet he had to meet this very tragic death. With which up to now we don't know what's happened. I mean, if there's any investigation happening, I really feel very. I feel very sad that this is the kind of end that he has to go through.
This was in 2001.
One.
So it's 2015. Clearly, the government has not complied with the recommendations of Professor Stavenhagen. Moving forward, during your term, how can you ensure that the recommendations will be implemented? And have you seen a particular model which is effective in first, for instance, dismantling the paramilitary groups, among other issues which the indigenous peoples are facing now?
Well, my mandate is to really monitor, to receive reports, and to gather reports on situations of human rights violations of indigenous peoples. So I will continue doing that, monitoring how the situation of indigenous peoples are, and of course making reports about these situations. Then I also would like to pursue some dialogues with the government bodies who are involved in this situation. So I would certainly like to hold a dialogue with the Philippine Army, if I can, for me to understand better how is it that these kinds of situations continue to happen. And of course with the Office of the President on Peace, because these are the bodies that are supposed to be dealing with the issues of peace and security. In relation to a parallel experience, there have been. This is a common experience of indigenous peoples all over the world. A good practice that I can cite is in Colombia, where there are also the FARC. These are the guerrillas who are operating in indigenous territories, as well as the military who are also there because they are under guise of anti-drug trafficking. They're also there in the communities of indigenous peoples. From what I have read and I have spoken with people, these are the Wayu peoples in Santa Marta de Nevadas in Colombia. They managed to really convince both the military and the FARC not to be there in their own communities, so that they will be able to really continue their own lives with peace, and they succeeded. They have really they have a very strong governance system in which they are the ones governing themselves. They are the ones who will in fact deal with even the issue of drug trafficking, and now they are in a much better position. I also recall, even here in the Philippines, for instance, in Sagada, when the people declared that it's a peace zone, they really have discussed. They have the elders, for instance, in the northern barrios. They talked with both the armed groups, both the military and the New People's Army, that they shouldn't be present there. They can pass by if they need to, and they will provide them the food or rest or drinks that they need. But they don't want them to be lingering in their communities.
Did both parties honor their
at least I had a discussion with some of the elders recently, and they said that both parties respected their desire. So I think that's what's needed, the communities themselves to be empowered, so they will be able to make a free choice of how they would like their communities to be governed.
Have you looked into the traditional laws and practices of the Lumads? What particular practice or traditional law can can be harnessed so that it can, they can help resolve the conflict and
Well, I
strengthen their
think-
own ranks.
Yeah, well, I think that the community should really have a discussion, a dialogue between themselves, and really strengthen their traditional governance systems if they still exist, or at least develop leadership. A mechanism wherein they can identify people whom they trust and they have faith with to be the ones governing the communities. It doesn't even matter even if these are people in the barangay council or what, as long as they are able to really represent the issues that the indigenous peoples are asking them to deal with. And if they are able to do that, and then they will develop their own customary laws that will govern the behavior of outsiders or coming into their communities, then I think there will be a bigger chance for them to really shape the community as they would like to.
We have a question from Twitter. I understand Peachy Tan at Talkative Ako is asking kung ano yung mga particular na indigenous groups sa area yung affected. Lumad is the collective identity of the indigenous peoples in Mindanao. Anong mga particular na mga groups na nakausap mo na apektado?
Well, kasi we just had an August 9 meeting where many indigenous representatives from all the communities many communities came. And the people that I've talked with are of course the Manobo, may mga Talaingod, tapos yung mga Teduray, yung mga apektado sa doon naman sa Bangsamoro area, and the Ata Manobo, the Manobos, there are different kinds, but the Ata Manobo, they are the ones who are in Talaingod, then this Manobo who are also in Surigao, as well as the Mandaya and the Mansaka. They were there in they had representatives who attended that conference, so I was able to talk with them as well.
Sa populasyon ng mga katutubo sa Pilipinas, yung mga lumad yung pinakamarami.
Yes.
Ngayon, matatapos na yung term ni President Aquino. Masasabi mo bang yung administration ni Aquino ay binigyan ng pansin yung mga issue ng mga katutubo? Did you address their issues?
I cannot of course make a firm conclusion about it. What I can just say is that I have been receiving a lot of reports about the situations of indigenous peoples being subjected to these kinds of violence from the military and the paramilitary, but also them being displaced from their communities. Di ba maraming mga evacuations na nangyayari? So yun ang isang side na naririnig ko. On the other hand, meron din naman mga situations na yung mga indigenous peoples who are claiming for their ancestral domains, may mga instances naman na at least na-assert nila yon. Ngayon, syempre, mabagal yung pagbibigay ng ancestral domain titles to the people who are claiming for those, Ang tagal-tagal ng process na meron nga ako nakausap na Manobo na 10 years na ang dumaan, nag-apply sila hanggang ngayon, wala. Meron yung bata na maliit na hindi pa pinapanganak. Nung pinanganak siya, nag-umpisa na silang mag-apply. 10 years old na siya ngayon, hanggang ngayon wala pa rin silang title. Ito yung mga taga Bukidnon, So ganyan, unfortunately, I cannot I cannot see a very at least a really sustained way in which the land rights of indigenous peoples are really being addressed, yung kanilang issues on peace and security. Tapos we even have a situation with the Bangsamoro na meron ngang Bangsamoro draft law, tapos halos hindi nga kasama ang indigenous people's rights doon, and the Indigenous People's Rights Act wasn't even included. It was only through the efforts of the indigenous peoples to lobby from that region that they managed to get Congress to come up with a draft that included the Indigenous People's Rights Act. So I think there's a lot of challenges that we still face, and within the term of President Noynoy, marami pa rin hindi nagawa, and I think this can be seen with all these incidents that we are seeing now.
In the short term, how should the Aquino administration address the problem which the internally displaced people are facing now? Anong mga konkretong
Well, I
mga
think,
steps na dapat
first of all, they should really think of disbanding these paramilitary groups. Kasi I really cannot imagine, I cannot still understand who is commanding, who is giving a command to these paramilitary groups, who is going to ensure that they are not going to act with impunity. So I think there has to be a mechanism that will either disband them or to make sure that they are really totally, given the right command. Secondly, I think that these displacements, they really need to look into the causes of these displacements, no, and to really address these causes, which clearly yung presence ng paramilitary groups, yung mga ilan, yung mga operations ng mga corporations, whether agriculture corporations or mining corporations for that matter, kailangan talagang i-address yan at kuhanin yung free prior informed consent ng mga tao kung gusto ba nila yung mga ganyang mga proyekto, no? Tapos yung syempre to investigate itong mga cases na ito, hindi naman pwedeng ganyan-ganyan na lang na nangyari tapos wala man lang investigation, walang inquiry, tapos wala man lang paglilitis doon sa mga naggawa ng ganyang human rights violation o krimen, 'di ba? Yun naman ang hinihingi ng mga tao na mabigyan man lang ng hustisya sila, lalong-lalo na yung mga pamilya ng mga nabiktima.
As far as the public is concerned and civil society groups, bihira lang mag-trend sa Twitter yung mga issues ng mga katutubo, but the hashtag Stop Lumad Killings trended earlier. And you can see the sympathy of the people. In fact, many were enraged. But then moving forward, ano ang pwedeng maitulong ng publiko sa mga katutubo? How can they effectively help?
Well, I think that, of course, yung mga immediate na support, lalong-lalo na doon sa mga na-displace, no? In terms of yung mga needs nila, yung mga basic needs nila for water, for food, sana may mga ma-provide na ganyan. Kung hindi dahil, of course, ideally, it should be the government providing that. Pero kung kulang yon, sana madagdagan yon. Secondly, I think the general public really has to continue raising the issue on a high level so that it can really be addressed. Tapos, meron sanang sustained na monitoring na nangyayari. Kasi minsan, issue ngayon, bukas patay na. Samantalang tuloy-tuloy naman na nangyayari yung ganyang kaganapan. So sana may stronger human rights monitoring, tsaka yung mga human rights group talagang i-document yung mga ganyang reports, dadalhin sa Commission on Human Rights, tapos dadalhin sa lahat ng even international bodies. Halimbawa, ipapadala pa rin yung report sa akin kasi makakatulong din naman ako to raise this, and then to use also the other complaints mechanisms internationally, like the Committee on Elimination of Racial Discrimination as well as the Human Rights Committee para din yung reports na yan pag nire-review ang Philippine government under the Universal Periodic Review, ma-raise din yung mga ganyang issues. So I think my request is talagang sana sustained yung ganyang work in terms of monitoring, in terms of bringing the cases to the bodies and the courts where justice can be rendered, no? And then in terms of raising continuous awareness about the situation of indigenous peoples, and finally to help empower the indigenous peoples themselves para talagang sila na talaga yung may right to self-determination sila. They should be able to determine how their economic, political, and social development will happen, as well as their political status vis-a-vis the state. Diba? So, maraming mga pwedeng gawin talaga na hindi nga nangyayari kasi parang yung very one-shot deal yung approaches. Kaya I hope that hindi ganyan. Na talagang it becomes a part of the daily concern and actions taken especially by human rights organizations.
The international community, how can they help the indigenous peoples?
Well, the international community, if they receive the reports, like in my case, then I will make the reports, and I will continuously hold dialogues with the government, and also provide the reports before the Human Rights Council, and then the bodies who are receiving these reports as well should provide the reports to the Human Rights Council. Tapos lahat to papasok pag nire-review ang Philippines kasi every 4 years nire-review ang countries in relation sa human rights records nila under the Universal Periodic Review process. So I hope that that process will also be sustained as well.
And your parting shots, what's your message to the indigenous peoples, not only to the Lumads, but also to the other indigenous groups across the country?
Well, I would like to tell the indigenous peoples that they do have their own strengths, they have their territories, they have their cultures and their identities and their languages. I hope they will continue to strengthen the processes to make them really strengthen their identities as indigenous peoples, as well as assert and claim the human rights that they are entitled under international human rights law. Tapos kapag may nangyayaring mga ganyang pang-violate sa kanilang karapatan, sana tuloy-tuloy pa rin silang lumabas sa communities at ipaalam kung ano yung mga nangyayaring yan para hindi talaga magtutuloy-tuloy yung ganyang kalunos-lunos na pangyayari sa mga indigenous communities.
On that note, thank you very much for joining us. We've been talking to Vicky Tauli Corpus, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, about how to address Lumad killings and other alleged rights violations. I'm Voltaire Tupas. Thank you for watching.